Hey folks, welcome back to the Dope Stroke podcast. This is episode number 10. Myself, Chris Trott, is here as always hosting this show, and we are joined by Mr. McD, Daryl Evans, aka The Skunk. Say hello, Daryl.
Hello, mate.
Good to see you, pal. Daryl is joining us obviously from Rocket Yard Sports. If you don't know, your next customer could be a sports fan, so be sure to check out that Rocket Yard and everything to do with it will be down in the description below. But today, joining us, we absolutely have a sports fan. I know I am a fan massively of her content. The brief overview, because I want to let her get into it as too. We're talking now 1 million followers on social media, which is colossal. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Gabby Golf Girl. Take it away. I know that you can talk. Give us your own intro, Gabby Golf Girl.
I'm a social media influencer, but in golf, obviously, which is why we're all here. And yeah, I've just been posting for the past 2 years. I started on Instagram. I started posting every single day, just kind of like as a creative thing. And it was kind of just like my outlet, I guess. It was just random. I had a friend who was doing it, actually golf workout videos. He's my personal trainer. And I'd known him for a while. He literally grew from like 800 followers to 50,000 followers in like 2 months. We were blown away. We were like, oh my gosh, I got to try this. We posted every day, and then it kind of moved over to YouTube, and then I started doing like Facebook and YouTube Shorts, and it just took off when a friend of mine, I was doing golf workout videos like my trainer, and I was doing golf tips, so I was adding a little bit different, and a friend of ours came up to us and we're like, you gotta like start talking to the camera. Like just start talking to the camera, telling you it's gonna make a huge difference. And it was at that point, like it took me a while, I'm not gonna like a week or two to say, I'm at school while I'm doing this. So like, and we'll get into this later, but I was kind of like being isolated and bullied before that. So I already knew that it was going to be, kind of like, okay, if I start doing this, I'm really going to get isolated and bullied 1 million times more. So I need to be okay with doing this. When I did, I made the choice and it paid off. So that's the kind of little overview.
So before we get going, though, just for people I think a lot of people know me through following Trotty Golf. Right. Obviously, we have Chris Ryan, who's our third host here. He's not with us today, unfortunately. He's sunning himself somewhere on some extravagant golf event, which is fantastic. So we're going to get into questions that we ask you about the teaching side too. But for me, people are aware, like I've been in the game now over 20 years, working with the best players in the world. Right. I meet you and just am so caught in the energy, the enthusiasm for the game. What made golf become the thing? I know you talk about fitness, but why did golf? Why did you want to do golf? Because you could have done many things.
That's true. Golf has been my whole life. I mean, I started playing golf when I was 2 years old. Like my parents got me a set of clubs for my birthday. And it kind of like my journey in golf was, I don't know if I loved it at 2, 3, 4 years old. I just liked being there with my mom and my dad, like at the range. And I was kind of like weirdly obsessed with money when I was like little. So my dad would literally take me to the range, and every 3 shots in a row I hit well, he'd give me like a quarter, and I'd come back with stacks of quarters. And that was my thing. Like, I don't know why, I was just obsessed with money. So then I was always playing golf. And then at 5, I started playing tournaments, became really competitive with that. Golf was, I just think, the obvious choice. And I had started doing golf workout videos. So it actually was fitness at the beginning. And it was just fitness that was centered around like golf workouts for little muscles that you needed and that you need to strengthen. And that was really actually the beginning. And then it just seemed like an obvious choice to move it over to golf because that's what I knew so well. I knew the tips. I'd been in 1 million lessons, so I knew what to say. And obviously I had the scores to back it up. And I kind of just, I guess it was just the obvious choice. Like I just had always been doing it every day. And my content is like the number one thing about my content and my brand is just like, I want to keep it as authentic as possible. Pretty much everything that people see, like on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, is most likely edited and filmed that day. And I used to post every single day for 2 years on that platform. Now we're doing it like 4 or 5 times a week. But still, like everything is posted that day. So everything's super authentic. And most of the time I am playing golf because I play tournaments and I'm a competitive junior golfer. So like that is, I think people always advise me, do what you're actually doing. That's the authentic you. And that's what I kept doing.
So, Gabby, did you find it from going from playing a lot of golf, doing a lot of fitness, doing all of these different things, and then all of a sudden you now have made a commitment to yourself to post every day? Like, was that quite a big leap? Like, after 3 weeks of posting every day, do you sit down on the sofa at the end of the day and go, geez, I'm not sure if I want to do another one tomorrow? Like, how do you get yourself sort of revved up day after day at that specific time?
Right. I mean, yeah, at the beginning I wasn't growing at all. So it was like, I truly was not growing. I think I started at 2,700 followers, and I maybe in 3 months, 3 months I grew to like 10,000 followers. Maybe it was 4,000 followers, 4 months. So yeah, definitely I was sitting on the couch. Like, I remember during the summer, cause I had started over the summer, I remember posting a video and like freaking out because it got 20,000 views on Instagram. I was like, oh my goodness, like it's going viral. I did not know at that point it's not viral. But I think the consistency, you're good. Yeah, it was like, okay, that's not viral at all. 20,000. Now, if I got 20,000 views, I'd be like, ooh, that's, but it grows. And I think what I was so focused on was like, I know consistency is the key, and I started to enjoy doing it, so even if it wasn't doing well, it was over the summer, and I was like, okay, I'm going to give this a try. Like, whenever I do something, I want to give it a full try. I don't like just try it once and be like, oh, I didn't like that. It didn't work out, so I'm just not going to do it. When I do something and commit myself to doing it, I'm going to literally go until it's like, okay, this is not working. 5 months and I haven't grown at all, But I really kept myself saying, I guess we'll get into this later in a little bit more detail, but I was driven so hard to do something different and get out of the situation that I was in. So I was willing to just work as hard as I possibly could and know that this social media thing became my out from school. So that's why I was so driven to do it. And I knew that it had worked with my personal trainer. And at some point when I fully committed and I was fully like, I'm going to talk to the camera, and I don't care what people say anymore, it took off. So that was for me. I knew once I had taken that step, it was going to work. So I was always pushing myself.
So that it's weird from the outside looking in. From my position, it's almost like that rise, that growth that you've experienced has been super quick. But I guess to you, it probably doesn't feel as quick as it does to somebody like me.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at, some of the content you put out, and you're obviously meeting some pretty cool people. I saw the other day you spent some time with DJ Khaled as well, which I think is mega. Like you've had a great time meeting some really cool people, and I'm sure you've got a ton of amazing stories. Out of all the people that you've met thus far, certainly over these last couple of years, is there a story that sort of springs to mind, or someone that you met, you thought, wow, that was an amazing experience and I learned so much, or there was just something that will be with you forever kind of thing? Is there something like that you've experienced over the last year or two that's pretty cool to share?
Yeah. The first one that comes to mind, I ended up getting a call. It was my Sweet 16, and for my 16th birthday, I was going to take a trip to Europe. I was so excited. I'd never been to Europe before. And we planned this whole trip, like the whole 9 yards. Like, we're going to go see England. We're going to go to Switzerland, Austria, Italy. And I was so excited for this trip. Literally, I think this shows you how committed. I was like, okay, a week, maybe 4 days beforehand, we get a call that we might be able to maybe shoot a video with Caitlyn Jenner in California. And I was like, that's it. We're doing it. Like, cancel the trip. I'm going. Like, I was so determined of just making this work and trying to find any bit of content I could. So we went to California. We played, actually full 18 holes with her. We filmed 9 holes, and she was amazing. Honestly, so sweet. So it was really cool to meet her. But anybody that knows me knows that I'm actually like the biggest fan of the Kardashians. I've literally watched like every episode of Keeping Up and the new show, and I'm like a huge fan. So we're literally having kind of like a lunch dinner, and Caitlin had invited us to come and have lunch. And I was like, there's no way that she's going to invite us after the round, but she was super sweet. We're sitting there and she like just randomly calls Kendall, and I was like, and I'm sitting next to her. I was literally like dying. She's like, oh, just, one sec. She calls her. She's like, oh, so what are you doing? Kendall's like, what are you doing? She's like, yeah, I'm just playing golf with my new friend, Gabby. She's amazing. Blah, blah. I was like, she didn't show me on the camera, but I was literally dying. Like it was crazy. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Maybe it's not the biggest moment, but to me, it's the biggest moment.
Yeah, do you know, it's funny. I've met Caitlyn Jenner as well. I was at a live event in New York, and it was really accidental. We were at one of the party. I can't remember if it was a launch, like opening party ceremony thing, or something a bit later. But I'm just stood on the edge of the dance floor type thing, and I just happened to just look to my left, and she was stood right next to me, and I couldn't believe. I don't know how tall she is, but I remember looking up vertically, which I do to most people, by the way. And then just randomly just said hello and had a chat for 2 minutes. And I thought, wow, that was a bit unexpected. Here I am in New York talking to Caitlyn Jenner. So I can imagine for someone that's a massive fan like yourself, that's probably a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big deal to play.
So I just want to interject here. So let's get this straight for anyone listening. You were on the edge of a dance floor in New York.
I wasn't cutting shapes at that point because I needed one more shot.
That's extreme. It's extremely unlike Daryl, because Daryl likes a dance floor. Let me tell you, Gabby, he enjoys the dance floor.
I do like it. Yeah. But you got to go with golf shoes with no spikes in. That's how you. That's when you know you're rocking it. That's when you know.
That's a long story about our history, Gabby. But if we look at you, and you mentioned there, like, you were in such a tough spot when you started this. So I assume that you're referencing some of the experiences you were having at school that drove you on to do this. Now, it's amazing when we talk to successful people, be it on this podcast or in any industry, that it comes from a place like that. So realistically, I think for anyone listening to this, looking to start their own business, and hopefully there'll be people looking to take a path that you're forging, not only into social media, but you're forging it and pioneering it for women and young women as well in golf, which is fantastic. But all these things, how important do you think it is that people take a start that comes from a tough spot? Because there's not a lot of people know the history of these businesses, but they come from tough places.
Right. I would say that if I had, like, and I say this to everybody, my biggest advice, like, for anyone, women, golfers, athletes, anybody starting a business. I was in such a tough spot. Like, honestly, I was getting isolated, bullied. It was not good. And I was just, I guess I'm a little bit of an introvert before that, but I was like, I'm the type of person that ever since I was in kindergarten, like, I'm just like so kind and sweet to everybody, and I'm unwavering. Like, I'm not gonna do the stuff that's not important or annoying or like just wrong stuff, be mean to other people, make fun of other people at everybody else's expense. And so I just wasn't willing to take part in this petty stuff that teenagers do. And I think that automatically set me like out. I was just out automatically. And it gotten really bad. And so I was really, I guess you could say that it was at the point where I couldn't walk to school, walk to class, sit at lunch by myself every day anymore. I just couldn't do it. Like, it had gotten too long. I was like, I have to try something different. I have to get out of this. Like, I was coming home crying every day because I just wanted to find a way out. And my way out was doing something different and taking the risk, which I think is the ultimate risk when you're in high school, is to start a social media account talking to the camera. I think that's like, you have to make the distinction that you're already getting bullied. So at this point, who cares? Like, you might as well try and make a name for yourself, and you might as well try and find a way out of it. So my biggest advice would be that you have to take the educated risk and find a way out of the situation that you don't love, because when you take that risk and you fully commit to it, if you're fully committed, it's most likely going to start to see some gradual trend up. And to most people, it's like, oh, she had quick growth, like you were saying before. But it's like, to me, it's gradual, and there's definitely so many ups and downs that once I took that risk and I said, because I had cared what people said beforehand. And I think the best trait that somebody can have is when they say that they really don't care what others say, which a lot of people say, but it's not necessarily true because everybody's always looking at their appearance and how they're perceived and how, especially in school, because that's a normal thing to do in high school. And I was like that. And as soon as I took this risk and knew that I was building a business while I was still going to school every day, I literally did not care what people said anymore. Like, I truly didn't care. It didn't matter to me. I started to focus less. Like, I don't care walking to class by myself because I'm looking at my Instagram numbers and I'm thinking of ideas that I can try and do. And when you take those risks and you say, this is what I love to do, this is what I'm driven to do, I'm going to do it, and you are super consistent in doing it, you're going to see the gradual trend up. And then I was like, you know what? I worked so hard it was like 4 or 5 months in school. And I was like, I'm done. I'm leaving. Like, I'm so happy that I'm out of there and I get to do what I love. So I would just say that the biggest thing is just when your heart wants to do something, like, you just got to go all the way and you have to be consistent with it. And you have to not, I know how hard it is, but you have to not care what people say. And there's going to be a situation, there's going to be a time, and when the timing's right, where you literally say, I don't care anymore. I'm doing it because this is what makes me happy. And so that would be my advice. Go ahead. Yeah.
I think it's important that I want you to know that when I go to Daryl and Bubsy, Chris Ryan, our other co-host on here, and Lloyd, who produces this, and I go and say to the guys, I have a pretty deep Rolodeck in golf. And I go in and say to them, I just had some time with Gabby Golf Girl last week at the TaylorMade photo shoot, which is more stuff pending on that. And I said, every time I see her, I'm so impressed by how you carry yourself. So to hear this and start to learn this about you, I never want you in the golf industry, as far as we're concerned. I think you're an absolute all-star, and being part of this business, the golf business, I'm so happy to have you in it. And you are a long way away from the world where I started. So to be able to say to the boys, guys, Gabby Golf Girl is someone I want to get on this show so early in our show's development. And the guys were all in, who equally have 20 plus years in the industry. Hopefully that resonates a little bit with you, because that's a big deal. And then I go through stuff as you research. Well, I go through stuff as you research the people we're getting on. And, you know, you've made content now for Charles Schwab. You know, you've appeared on Charles Schwab's website. So to go from I'm struggling to speak to a camera to thinking, to use your words, 20,000 views is viral, to that in such a short period of time must give you so much confidence. And as a pivot to the next subject, I want to just acknowledge your dad, who's around whenever we've filmed, who's a great bloke. And also I've had the privilege of meeting your grandfather as well, who is also a lovely guy. Can we talk a little bit about the future strategy? I know he's been a huge influence on my business as to how I shape the future. But what about for yourself? How do you think about the next 3 and 5 year plan? Where are you going to take this? Because you've got a platform, and I know you've spoken about the importance and the desire to be the #1 followed female in the golf space, which you're at 1 million all channels now. I saw a recent post you quoted 9 million as the benchmark. Talk to me a little bit about the strategy behind going there.
Yeah, I mean, we're always, I would say I probably speak to my family. I'm literally talking about ideas and content ideas every second of every day. Like, it becomes my topic of conversation, like, all the time. I like literally don't talk about anything else. It's always that. And I've just become obsessed with it, which I think is a good thing, because if you look at anybody successful, that's like what they've done. So I'm okay with it. But, I always speak to my grandpa and my dad about ideas and stuff like that. My family's super supportive. They've just been supporting me since the beginning. I mean, my grandpa literally looks at like every comment on every platform. Like, he got Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all for me. Like, he never had that before. And he's like in tune with what everybody's saying. And he knows, like, he can tell you the numbers on Instagram reels, like, oh, you post, I'm better than I do. He's obsessed too. So my family's super supportive. And to answer your question about the #1 follower goal, yes, that's what I'm kind of doing now. And I want to be the number one followed women's golfer. And yeah, I mean, that's I guess the plan. We don't plan super far in advance because we want it to keep super authentic. Do you know what I'm saying? So like when I film, when I edit, it's pretty much that day or a few days after. So we plan ahead idea wise, but what I'm doing right now is that goal of number one most followed women's golfer, which I think can bring a lot of uproar in the women's golf industry and just bring a lot of people to women's golf, which is my ultimate goal. And I mean, it's definitely going to take a while. It's definitely going to be a big goal. I've got a long way to go, but I think if we can rally as many people as possible to follow, and I think we can definitely get it. And I mean, a lot. I know that there's probably people out there that are like, okay, well, you know, followers. You're just doing this to gain followers for yourself. But my whole thing is like, I want to be the number one at whatever I do, which I mentioned before. It's like, I think if you're not doing something to be the number one at it, like, what are you doing it for? You know? And followers is just like, it's just a benchmark. It's just a number that tells you what place you're in, basically, you know? And we were just talking about this the other day with my parents. Like, when a movie comes out, it wants to be the number one movie in the box office. It doesn't want to be number 4. It doesn't want to, they're PRing, they're pressing, they want people to see the movie, they want to go out and watch it, and they're trying to get as many people to like the movie as possible. So when they put out a movie, they're pressing it in your face to try and get it number 1, which I respect because they've worked so hard. It's a whole production. And I think it's the same thing with social media and sports and everything that you do. If you don't want to be the number 1, there's a lot of people that say like, oh, I don't care about how many followers I have. I mean, I think that if you're doing it, you got to do it for some reason. The followers, yes, it's just a number, but it's the benchmark. It just means I want to be number 1.
I think as well, you know, with the type of content you put out, it lends itself to you've got a lot of high, this sounds like such a flippant phrase, but it's like a high quality audience is following you, as opposed to what we see, you know, especially when we look at other female influencers in the space and the type of content that goes out. Some of it isn't necessarily lending itself nicely to being a good, solid golf related content piece that's relevant for that audience. And that's where I think you shine, because the content is so strong. And like you say, it's super authentic. Like, I feel like people have a really good insight into the day in the life of Gabby Golf Girl all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the content really dominates. So I really like that approach. And I'm a big believer that, and I look at everything through the lens of a business, really. And I'm definitely a big believer that money always follows attention. So that the more attention that can be created, and the more, in this case, the following does develop, it should generate different types of commercial opportunities.
Right.
I'm leading to a question here, by the way. But when I start to look at how social media and how algorithms and all of these different things can affect somebody, my greatest fear, not necessarily for myself, because I'm not an influencer and have not much of a presence, but I can certainly see for people in that space how if there's a change, it can have a massive effect on your business. So I try and look through the lens of how do you future-proof yourself a lot? What are you technically in control of? Because like Instagram kind of have all the followers, not necessarily you in a way. So when I do applaud the idea of growing that audience, and 100% you're on the best path to do that, so don't change that. But how do you think sort of 10 years from now, you have a business that is sustainable with or without social media? You see where I'm going?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, we've talked about that so much. This is another thing, total other topic. I'm super drawn into making this a business. Like, forget about the social media. I want to grow some sort of business. We've got an announcement coming out soon, which I can't talk totally about yet, but I'm really involved in kind of not shifting, but just starting to create a business on the side so that in 10 years, if all else fails and social media has just gone downhill, which I don't think it will, but if it does, then that's what I'm focused on, because I've kind of also created a passion. I mean, I'm only 17, so I don't know everything yet, but I'm learning so much about how to grow businesses and what I've done with the social media. I don't think it's too far off with companies and businesses and products. So I'm really trying to kind of shift my knowledge over to more products and businesses that I can grow using my name, image, and likeness. And so, yeah, we're definitely talking a lot about that. And we've got a few things coming up with that. But yes, I agree. You have to every influencer has to shift it over at some point. We've kept our brand, I think, really clean in the fact that we have not pressed really any products that, like, you know, like I have my name on a shirt. Like, we haven't done that yet. And so when I do put something out, I want it to be something that I'm super passionate about. And you'll see when it comes out, but I'm trying to create that in a product.
Can I just say here, can I just step in a second here?
Yeah.
I just want to say, like, this is Gabby Golf Girl. I want to get my official invite now when this thing blows up and it turns into like Gabby Yacht Girl. I want to be on the yacht because this thing's going to the moon. Definitely. And like, we got the golf industry covered. Like, we're going to have the golf industry boxed off by the time she's 21. So I like cars. So Gabby Car Girl, that's me. And then boats, I guess. I mean, if you're going there with yachts, I'll go with you. Gabby Yacht Girl. I want to be at the opening party for that.
Perfect.
Why not?
I mean, I got to say, like, I'm very fortunate. I meet a lot of really interesting people all the time in the world of business. And for someone of not just your age, but just somebody to be talking the way that you are about yourself and about your business and your vision, I don't hear that very often. I think you're absolutely crushing it, to be fair. I think it's amazing what you're doing. And I think the key phrase that I can see is something that Jeff Bezos said, which is, you know, you got to be stubborn on vision, but flexible on details. And I can see that that's how you're running your business. And I can see that how that's going to progress into something significant. So when you do get the yacht, let us know.
I will.
We're interested.
I promise.
Daryl, I told you she was a baller. I told you we were getting a baller on
her. Wrong. No, she's killing it. Yeah, it's all good.
So a take for me that I saw this week, just bringing it into recent news and more podcasty vibe as we're learning so much about Gabby. We want your views on this too. Obviously, Scotty Scheffler won this week. Fantastic. You've talked about number ones. He's diving in there, opening a gap, becoming so dominant in the game. Switched to a bit of the claw grip this week, which was interesting. Came from data that he looked at, 15 feet and in. Felt like he was struggling. Just give us your take on where you think professional golf is in both the male and the female world. I know you've got to have some ideas and vision that, I mean, I think you could help both sides of the sport. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're definitely going in the right direction, obviously, both PGA Tour and LPGA Tour. Listen, my goal is to just grow golf. Like, that's how it's always been, especially women's golf, but just golf in general. And I would love to, I'm trying to bring an audience to my page, and that doesn't necessarily mean me. My page just happens to be golf. So when they're coming to watch my content, they're watching also golf. And I think that I've gotten a lot of people into golf, which is what I'd love to do, younger people. But I think that there's definitely a lot the PGA Tour and LPGA Tour could do. We've talked to the LPGA Tour. Hopefully down the road, maybe they'll want to do something. Whether or not they do, I'm going to continue growing women's golf on my own. Whether or not they want to be a part of it, I'm not sure. So far, I'm just going to be continue doing it by myself and growing as much I can for women's golf. Because obviously that's like my passion, and anything that I can do to help the sport, like, that makes me happy, you know? And I think that we need younger people to advocate for the sport, to get younger audiences involved. And so, again, I'm just going to continue growing women's golf, and hopefully the PGA Tour or LPGA Tour want to be a part of it, but I'm going to grow it either way, so.
I mean, I'll be honest, they're very frustrated. The men's side is very frustrating to work with. They have a fantastic brand. I understand it. But from my point of view, which is obviously deep in the equipment lane, it's frustrating at times. And that's me saying that, just for anyone listening here. That's me voicing that. Gabby's not touched on that subject at all. So the fact that she wants to pioneer and go ahead with her own thing, at the end of the day, if you become what you say you're going to do, which I think you will, then how can it be ignored? That would be my soundbite on that. It brings me, though, to the Creator Classic. You played in the Creator Classic. Talk to us a little bit about that experience, because that's a big deal. I mean, it put you as the youngest competitor ever at a PGA Tour event, which is fantastic. I saw that you caught onto that as a marketing piece to capture attention, as you rightly should. But that whole day, that whole event, I mean, it must have been great.
It was so cool. They did a great job on the Creator Classic. I thought the group of people was great. I thought that they treated us amazing. So I have to give it to them. The PGA Tour did a great job, and Pro Shop, which I know that conducted that as well, did a great job on the Creator Classic. Honestly, I don't know if there was much they could have done better for their first time. I think it was pretty amazing. I mean, we got a ton of views on YouTube, on the live stream. I mean, I remember waking up the next day, it was #1 on trending on YouTube. And there's not often when a golf video is #1 on trending, especially a professional event on YouTube. This is not like #1 trending just in a golf space. This is #1 trending like worldwide on YouTube. So I thought that was incredible. Clearly people wanted to see it. Hopefully, I loved being a part of it. I thought it was a great way for people to see actually how, these players play in tournaments. And I think it's a good opportunity to see the real level of golf. Hopefully they'll want to do something more like that. I'd love to be a part of it. Because I loved that event. But hopefully I'm a part of the next one. And I think that brings a lot of people.
Was every creator allowed to capture content? I know you did, but was everyone there allowed to capture content?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Pretty sure. Yeah. Don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty
sure. And then obviously it leads to fair enough. There's no quoting. And then obviously it leads to the creator panel that came this week, announced from the PGA Tour. I mean, I thought there was some unique names on there. I personally feel like if I'm having a creator panel, then I want you on it. No doubt there's reasons behind that, but what's your view on the creator panel and the content that they're going down this avenue, the PGA Tour? I guess it's a good thing, but I'm surprised some of the names myself.
Yeah, I'm happy for everybody that's on there. Congrats to them. But I'd love to. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I would have loved to be. Would have loved to be considered, or interested in, and maybe being on there. I also think, like, personally, and this is just my personal view, like, in order to get the younger generation, which is what my problem is, everybody says they want to grow the game. Like, everybody says they want to grow the game, But, like, to me, the way you grow the game is with the younger generation. And I mean young, like 30 women who are in their 30s, 20s, younger women, teenagers, younger boys. Like, getting younger people into the sport is the most important thing, because that's the next generation. Everybody says they want to grow the game, but they don't really put that much effort in it. You know what I'm saying? And so I would have thought that you want to get the youngest person in social media and golf to be on there. That's just my personal view, because I think it would spark up so much, I don't know about controversy, but just like so much buzz on, like, look at the PGA Tour taking this stance of bringing the youngest social media golf influencer on the roster and advocating for the younger generation, which I think would have been important, honestly. But I'm super happy for, like, everyone that they picked. Congrats to them. But, I think that the main point is that everybody says they want to grow the game, and they're not really growing the game. Like, it's not really growing the game, because you're not bringing younger people into sport. So that's not growing the game, But that's just my view, personally. But,
Yeah, I think it's a valid point. We talk about this at sort of the grassroots golf course level as well, and I'm pretty sure Trotty would have heard me say this in the past. But for me, when you look at golf clubs and they're all trying to attract members to the clubs, the way that they do that is to attract members from other clubs, as opposed to bringing in people that are members for the first time.
Right.
So how do you do that is always going to be a challenging question, right? But I look at my personal circumstances. I'm married. I've got 2 small children. all I need to do at that age for my kids is generate exposure to the game.
Exactly.
It's like sometimes I'll put on football or soccer onto the TV, for example, and I want them to expose themselves to that so they have a level of knowledge and understanding. And golf's the same. So for me, you know, we had a brand that came to us and they just wanted a bit of advice on a couple of things. And they said, we're trying to grow our membership. So they gave me all of these different ideas that they were looking at and advertising and all these really fascinating, interesting things. And eventually I just said, but all you're doing is taking members from somewhere else. Why don't you instead build a children's soft play on site so that I can come up here with my family when it's raining? Everything's golf themed, you know, toy golf clubs and all, and no one can hurt themselves in this sort of soft play environment, but they're at the golf course. They're exposed. So as they then reach an age to go out onto the putting green, give it a go themselves for real, you know, now you're growing a database of people that you can actually talk to and convert them into long-term members of every club, not just one.
Right.
And you know, for me, that's a mechanism to grow the game. But there's actually not many mechanisms that are out there that people are actually using. So when I look at your content and your age, and you rightly point out, you know, you're trying to grow the game, and I see the content you're putting out. Yeah, it makes perfect sense to be part of the Creator Council because you're the one that identifies the most with that age group. Like, who else can talk to that age group better than you? Nobody. You know, and it's the same thing from your lens, Trotty.
Yeah, I do think, though, Daryl, sorry I interjected there, you maybe were going to go there. I do think all you can do as someone that, for me, I'm not primarily in the creator space. We've covered that. Gabby is and does an amazing job. But all you can do as an individual is be the best in whatever lane you pick. Right. So Gabby is on her way to be the best in the ladies section of the game, which, by the way, will dwarf any sex person in this space. It will dwarf them. And it already does. And you're getting an insight in this podcast, in this interview, about her vision, her desire, and her passion for the game. From my side, all I can do is take tour information for the best company in golf, which I work with for 20 years, and then bring it to the public. All these eyes and people coming into golf are going to need golf equipment. Now, whether sports parties like the PGA Tour, like LIV, like the LPGA, pay attention to that, is stuff that's out of the creator or the individual's control. So you have to have a vision, which is why I like what Gabby's saying, that is separate to that, because they're variables that you can't really you can't control that outcome. It's much like if you're a player in a soccer team, you can take on your individual battles, you can do what you need to do, but there's 10 other players on the pitch that are going to need to chip in to get that done. So I think it's important that you have a North Star that you can't waver from, which brings me to really one of the next points is, how do you keep things so fresh? Because you do bring this energy. How do you keep it so fresh day in, day out?
Honestly, it's just like I'm constantly talking about social media. Like I'm obsessed with it now. Like I found my lane. It's like we were just talking about. Like my lane, there's nothing I can control. I can't control what the PGA Tour picks as their panel. Like it's not out of my control. I have no pull. So the only thing that I can do is try and grow in followers. It's the only way that I know how to grow. I can control my golf game, and I can control how many followers I can control growing my audience. I can control how much content I put out there, what content I put out there. And I know that being authentic to myself and trying to grow in just that lane, then if the LPGA Tour, if the PGA Tour want to jump on, then I'm still here. Like I'm still gonna want to grow the game, because my actual most important thing is to grow the game, because I'm 17. I know what it's like being 14, 13, and going to school where golf is really not cool. And you're outed because you play the uncool sport. I mean, that's a whole other thing. I'm passionate about bringing kids to the game and showing them that it can be cool. And I think because kids are really only on social media, the way you can do that is by bringing golf onto social media. I mean, that's how you grow. I think personally, it's how you grow golf the quickest with the younger generation. So that's what I'm trying to do. And if PGA Tour and LPGA Tour are not ready to do that with me, totally fine. I'm just going to continue growing that. And that's how I guess, stay as fresh as possible with my content. Like I at least try to, is just constantly talking about ideas, constantly trying to grow. That's what I can control. I can't control what other people, if people want to do stuff with me or PGA Tour wants to do stuff, like I can't control it. I'm just going to continue doing what I do and put out my authentic content, which the way I keep it fresh is just by being authentic. Like if, I found that the more authentic I am, the better the content does, because I think people just want a breath of like normalcy, and just like normalcy and authenticity, and what actually is out there. So I think that that's how I kind of keep the same content going.
You got to be stoked to hear. I saw that in recent data that you keep touching on it, but the demographic from 35 and under has now become the largest demographic to play golf versus the 60 and over. So things are moving in the direction. I mean, for me in the equipment space, that means we've got a ton of new people coming in that are going to need equipment. So all these channels, all these avenues, they're all relevant as to where things need to go. Again, I think it's fantastic. I think if we look at the journey that you're on, I think everything really adds in to being just massive for the future. From my side, podcasting, what can we expect to see? I mean, this is a podcast. I haven't heard you do many podcasts before, which is why we're so grateful to have you on.
Yeah.
What else is in the future in terms of social media? Where do you see podcasts as a key part of what you want to do? Or do you want to go down the presenting avenue potentially?
I would love to do more podcasts. I would love to do presenting. Honestly, I want to do all of it. Like I don't really discriminate on like what type of content not to do. I love to create content. So I'm just going to try and do that as much as I possibly can and grow as much as I possibly can. And I think the more that I post, I've always said this, the more that I post, the more consistency that I have. Whether or not I realize that I'm going up, somehow it's just because of the consistency and because of the drive, it starts to grow. And there's so many up and downs. Like, don't get me wrong. There's like, we've been in crazy up and downs, trust me. But that's just part of the journey. Like anything that you're going to try and be number one at, anything that you're going to try and do well is going to have insane up and downs. Otherwise, I don't even know, like if it's always up, I don't think that's attainable, or it's going to continue working that way. So I actually take it as a blessing that there's up and downs, and I grow from them and I learn more, because I know every single time when there's a kind of down moment, like there's always going to be an up somewhere along the way. So I think just as much content that I can put out, as many different avenues I can get. I really do want to just grow the sport. And it's not specific to women. It's not specific to just a different age demographic. I do think we need to get women into golf and younger generations. I think that's super important. But I'm really just focused on growing the sport altogether and bringing as many people as I can.
So it's amazing, like I say, to hear. But Chris Ryan, our third wheel, he did have one question. So Chris runs a YouTube account, Chris Ryan Golf, over 500,000 followers, a lot of tuition on there. And his question for you, which he's probably sent from a sun lounge or somewhere, knowing Chris, good on him. But basically, his question for you was, how do you, because I think he knew you were going to come in with this energy. He knew you'd have this business vision, but how do you ensure such a quality golf game? Because the thing that we haven't touched on, I feel that you downplay it, you're a very good golfer, very good. So how do you balance it all?
Yeah, no, it's tough. I also have school, so it's like I have I guess you could say I have 3 full-time jobs. I do all the editing myself. I do all the content creation myself. Editing on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and then I edit all the YouTube myself. Like I do everything. So I guess it's a lot, and then I have full-time school, online, obviously, but full-time, and also the golf game, which is a whole, I guess I've just been doing it for so long that practicing is part of my every single day. So when I'm creating content, I'm also practicing. It doesn't take away from my practice. I am doing something that I love while I'm practicing. So it's just more entertaining actually for me. And also I'm like the type of person that literally cannot sit still. Like I am just always going. Like I have appointments all day long and just trying to get as many things as I possibly can done. So I like multitask. When I'm practicing, I find that it's better when I'm filming because I just like I have to hold to some sort of standard. So yeah, I still play tournaments. I still compete at a super high level. And that will always be what I want to do because I want to try and be really good at whatever I do. And so I try and keep my game in the most, I guess, solid way by putting myself in the most pressured situations with my golf game. So whether it be I'm playing with like a celebrity and that like is a pressured situation, or I'm playing in a tournament, which I try and do at least once a month to keep me in the pressured situation and keep me going. Yeah, I guess it's just I'm really don't like to sit still, so I just do as much as I possibly can all day long.
And then college is obviously around the corner if you so choose to do that.
Right.
In the UK, I mean, Daryl's South African. I'm from the UK, as you know. College and university, yeah, look, it's a big deal. But if someone was going into it with the sort of business foundation that you have, I don't know if I don't know. I don't know what I would say to my younger self if I was holding the brand you have. What's the plan for I mean, you mentioned education at school. I get it. But college is like 6-8 months away. What's the game plan there?
So I've got like a year and a half until I go away if I do choose to go. I haven't decided yet. Like I'm really want to make the best decision for the brand because if I go to college, if I end up playing Division I golf and that's the route that I choose to go, I will not stop and I will bring the audience and everybody that's watching to women's golf because what I want to do is try and make the biggest impact wherever I go. So if I do end up choosing to go and if it works out that I can continue doing my social media to the level that I am now, even more by that time, if I can continue doing that while I play Division I golf, it's going to be, if it happens, it's going to be incredibly difficult, but I will do it because I want to bring people to women's golf. Like that will be the reason for it because I can continue just doing my brand without going to school and just continue creating social media content. Honestly, if I go, I will have literally done something. I will literally want to do something that's never been done in college golf, and it won't be done at that point because I'll be the first person to ever show D1 college golf on YouTube, on Instagram as a social media influencer. So if I do it, it's because I want to make a splash in bringing as many people to women's golf as possible and do something no one's ever done before.
Just think about the power of that, Daryl, for a university. Think about if I was running any university. I mean, you could have your golf team for the next 10 years organized just off of. Forget your golf team. You could have your yacht club organized off of having Gabby Golf Girl at university.
It's funny though. The irony is that what are you going to go and study? Because everything that you're doing and everything that you're building, like you'll learn way more about doing business than you will in a classroom. So like you'll be if you did business studies, you'll be so far ahead. You just get straight A's.
Honestly, it's like this is what everybody's like, well, how could you not just go if you have this a huge offer from it? Well, I was like, but my passion is creating social media content. And I can do that without going to school. But if I do go, I want it to be something no one's ever done before. So if I do that, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. There's no other reason for me to go. If I go, I want to bring as many eyes to women's golf. Like that's what I would be doing it for because there's no reason. Otherwise, I would just continue doing what I'm doing. And yeah, the school part, I don't know. Like we were just talking about this, what would I study? Because I'm doing I'm doing what everybody's doing after 4 years of college right now. But aside from that, the point would be I'm literally doing this for women's golf. Like I would literally go to play Division I golf for women's golf so I could bring those followers to something that they've never seen before. Otherwise, I would just continue.
Yeah, no, I totally understand your point. And to go to university for those reasons definitely sounds legit to me. And I think for all of those other high level D1 golfers, I think you would put a really good spotlight on that.
Hopefully.
Which again makes golf look cooler, makes it look fresher, makes it look more modern. And I think the women's game can do that, especially at that university level, and inspire the next generation to go through the ranks and become great golfers. And in time, like all sports, it just creates depth of talent. Right, like obviously the men's game, there's just that many more golfers that play golf versus women, that the depth pool has to be deeper. It's just mathematics at the moment. But if you look at things like tennis, for example, that gap is quite narrow compared to, say, golf. So if you have a massive part to play in that and get people playing golf and universities the platform to do that, I can see how that would work, to be honest. It's just kind of weird that you'll end up with a degree that you don't even need because you'll be so far ahead of the curve, it's almost useless to you. But actually what you would have done for the game is you would have left a mark, a positive mark. And I think that's a cool thing to do.
I appreciate that. Thank you. If it works and everything can be lined up where I can continue doing the social media, then I would love to. It just has to work that I can, because otherwise, if I'm not doing the social media, then there's no point, because the whole goal is to bring people to women's golf and to bridge that gap. But if I can't bring the social media, then we're not accomplishing it. So if I can do that, then that's my goal, because that's what's important to me. And like I've said before, like I truly am passionate about growing the game. I know a lot of people say it, but like I truly, this is what I'm doing it for. So I'm trying to bring as many eyes and audience to golf in general. And so if it works out, then I would love to do that and make my mark, because I think it's so important. Somebody's got to do it. You know, if it works out, somebody's got to do it.
Well, Gabby, I mean, I've got to say, this call so far, just to start putting things on a bit of a wrap for you, because I know that you've got a busy schedule because you've got shed loads of content to produce. But I think one of the most amazing things that I've learned from you today is just your innovative mindset, your passion for the game, your passion for growth. I think all of those things encompassed in one human being is an amazing thing to see. And I feel really privileged to have the opportunity to talk to you today.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think you're going to do you've already done great things, but I think you're going to do phenomenal things. And I'm really keen to have a bird's eye view of that as that progresses. So I want to wrap up the show a little bit more, and I want to say, Gabby, thank you so much for being part of this. We're very early days in our development, and having you on the show feels like quite a coup. So really, thanks for coming on and supporting us.
No, I appreciate you guys having me. You guys are awesome, and I appreciate all the kind words you guys said. So thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And then just from my side, Gabby, I mean, I've seen, like I say, from a distance, and you were a name that from the Rolodex I have instantly wanted to have you on. So a huge thank you from me as well. Yeah, and also shout out to your dad, Ron, and your grandpa, absolute legends. I know they work behind the scenes on this, so please send them my best.
I will.
But folks, that's the dope. That's the Dope Stroke podcast. We're bringing you a little left fielder that I'm sure many of you didn't expect, but I am a huge Gabby Golf Girl fan. When she brings out some merchandise or whatever, I will be rocking it. Be sure to check her out. All the details are going to be down below in the description. I'm going to bang a bunch of stuff on my Instagram as well so that you can see it. Daryl will do the same from Rocket Yard. Gabby, take care. Thank you very much and good luck. And if we can ever help in the future, you know where we are.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.